Hey everyone, I am the TheChosenOneLegend here, as always with my co-host.
Hi, I'm Kye, also known as Fascurreyn.
And welcome to our channel BunchaJokahs, where we talk all sorts of Nintendo news, and we have a bit of a one-off discussion for you today, because this is a discussion we've had in the works a long time, but it keeps getting pushed back every time Nintendo surprise announces news on us. That's...
I'm not complaining about more news, but...
No. They've been operating very differently this year, like, surprise, have a direct. So,
yeah.
It's certainly been an interesting year to start a Nintendo podcast, that's for sure. But
yeah, it's been really unpredictable, for sure.
Definitely, but, I mean, now that Pikmin 3 Deluxe has just recently come out, there's no better time for us to talk about games that we want to see get remasters on the Nintendo Switch. Because that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, it seems like they're bringing a lot of games over to the Switch as remasters, like we're seeing with Pikmin 3 and other games, and I'm all for it. Like, what's wrong with having like a graphics upheaval, audio sometimes as well, and just bringing it over to a more accessible console for a lot of people. Especially with Nintendo, where they've got a history of releasing games on old consoles, they're never letting people buy them again.
Yes.
So, having these ports and improved versions of games people love, sure, why not?
Definitely. The Switch has really become this, like, port and remaster machine. And, of course, being a hybrid console handheld, it's the perfect console to have all your old games on. So it really does make sense. And, of course, like, the Wii U didn't do very well, so we've got almost every Wii U game under the sun on here now. So
yeah.
But not all of them, and I'm sure will probably come up in this discussion.
Oh, without a doubt. I know what you're
quite
thinking.
Simply, I think I know. But Kye and I have both got 3 picks each, so we're just going to take turns going through those. We'll talk a bit about why we want the game on the Switch and what changes and adjustments they could potentially make. And I guess in general as a bit of a guideline, because sometimes it is a bit up in the air what exactly qualifies as a remaster. We're not really talking straight ports like Mario 3D All-Stars, where it's the exact same game. We're also not exactly talking full-on remakes like Final Fantasy VII, where it's basically an entirely different game. But anything in between there, where it's along the lines of Xenoblade Definitive Edition or Pikmin 3, where it's the game but they've upgraded the visuals or changed the UI or even added some new story content, that's the kind of treatment we're looking at, and games that we think could work well for that on the Switch.
Yep.
So Kye, if you're ready, would you like to start us off with your first pick for a Switch remaster?
Okay, so this is it's not just a single game I've chosen for my first pick, it's kind of like a collection similar to 3D All-Stars for Mario. And It is another Mario collection, the Paper Mario collection. Now, we've already talked a lot about Paper Mario on the podcast, I feel, in the past, a lot more than I expected. But
especially seeing as I've never played a Paper Mario game, so
yeah, true. Like, it's unexpected, but I felt the need to bring it up here because the original Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and Super Paper Mario. The first 3 games in the series, I feel like all of those could be put into a collection for the Switch. Now, of course, games like Color Splash, Origami King, now they've got very mixed reviews, I feel, overall. Like, people have appreciated them, but there's also a lot of backlash saying go back to the old system, what's happened to it. So, although unlikely, I don't see why we shouldn't get the first 3 games put onto the Switch. And alongside that, one of the main praises I've noticed that always comes from the Paper Mario series, especially with Origami King, was the graphics and the music, both being really well done. So why don't we get the old 3 games, put them on the Switch with, new graphics, new and improved. You can do the audio improved, like in Xenoblade Definitive Edition and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And bring them all over with that. I mean, I personally think that would be a really good inclusion, because those people who complain about not getting an old Paper Mario game can just have it on the Switch now with all the new additions.
Definitely, and if it did well, that could even maybe convince them to make a game more like that style for the next mainline game.
That is the dream, yeah, that is the dream. And even alongside that, I mean, we've already had, in those games, like, we already have, like, little side stories normally going on, but I feel like those could very easily be fleshed out into their own, like, actual side stories. For example, in the Thousand Year Door, Luigi is constantly in Rogueport talking about his own adventures of things that have happened. Why don't we get a little spin-off thing, like an add-on in that game with Luigi's adventures? In Super Paper Mario, we can maybe see what some other characters are doing at the same time in the events of the game. Like, there's a lot of options out there for what they could do, but I feel like Paper Mario is one of those series where they could incorporate side stories as a little extra on top of the other improvements.
Yeah, they've definitely been going along that route a few times, like with Xenoblade had Future Connected, and Pikmin 3 Deluxe has the Olimar and Louis side stories, so they are definitely, that's becoming a bit of a trend, and I could see them going down that route here. I'm of course, like I said, I haven't played any Paper Mario games, but I am interested in them, so to have them all on the Switch in one collection, my wallet couldn't say no to that. It suffered a bit this year in some points, but I could not say no to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, with that, it wouldn't. I said emphasis on the first 3 games, and that wouldn't include Sticker Star.
No,
but
I don't think people would want Sticker Star. So
yeah, I thought
that would actually decrease the PAX value.
Yeah, we can ignore that one. We can just bring the main 3 in, and I reckon that'd work. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. My only thing that I think might put them off it is Nintendo aren't the biggest thing about value collections. Like with Mario 3D All-Stars, we got straight ports. So I don't know if they would give us 3 remasters in one collection. I would love it.
That's true.
But it would be a very un-Nintendo thing to do.
Yeah, if they were to pick one from the series, I'd say Thousand Year Door, but I see exactly what you mean, yeah.
Do you think there's any particular gameplay tweaks or anything they could fix about the game in the remaster?
Well, for Super Paper Mario, it was on the Wii, and there were a couple of Wii remote thingies. But pointing at the screen you can still do on the Switch, which is fine. There are a couple of things where you shake the Wii remote. That's fine. You can shake a Joy-Con. I guess one of the things in Super Paper Mario is the gameplay, and that is very different. It's actually kind of a semi-platformer rather than an actual RPG game. And I'm curious on, I don't know any specifics, but I'm curious on how they could expand on that to make it even more enjoyable in any way they can, really.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see them give it a crack again after these. They've gone for very different approaches with the most recent Paper Mario games, and interestingly, Super Paper Mario really, at the time, was quite a different take on it. So that sort of started the trend in a way, even if some people would call it the last good one. But yeah, any way to get these games for more people to play them, couldn't say no to that.
Yeah.
But I guess I should probably go on to my first pick, and I've gone with quite an obvious one we've actually seen quite a few rumours about, and it's annoying because I've resisted playing it for so long, waiting for it to come out as a remake. Skyward Sword HD, please. Give me it, Nintendo. I love this game. I love it. I know it's some people are a bit mixed on Skyward Sword. I love it because of nostalgia. Because whilst it wasn't my first Zelda game, that was Ocarina of Time 3D earlier that year, it was my first Zelda game as a Zelda fan. So the first one I had that hype cycle behind it, and the first game I ever pre-ordered in general. So, and even beyond nostalgia, this game has such great characters and dungeons, and a really interesting world and combat system, which people are a bit mixed about, but I love. So I think it would really be better received than ever if it came out today on the Switch. Partly because I think one of the reasons why Skyward Sword was a bit mixed at the time was because it was very linear, and people were getting a bit tired of the Zelda formula, getting a bit old.
Yeah.
Then of course Breath of the Wild came out and completely changed the franchise, made it all open world.
Blew it out of the water, yeah.
Exactly, but Zelda fans being Zelda fans, now they've gone full reverse and they've said, okay, well now we want the old dungeons, we want the old better stories and that. So Skyward Sword pretty much hits perfectly all those things that Breath of the Wild misses out on. These games sort of complement each other perfectly as opposite ends of the spectrum. Everything great about open world is in Breath of the Wild. Everything great about traditional Zelda is in Skyward Sword. So to have these two games out together, it's a really great way to have whatever kind of Zelda fan you are, whatever you're looking for. They're both available on the Switch, and they complement each other perfectly in that way. So even if it was just a straight port, I think it would be better received now than it ever was when it first came out. But also, of course,
I've heard people weren't a fan of the controls with the Wii Remote. How do you think that would be approached?
But that is the interesting thing. People weren't too keen on the motion controls. I always personally liked them, but the problem is if you take them out of the game, you lose part of Skyward Sword's identity because the entire game is built around the motion controls, really.
Of course, yeah.
So it is a tough one, and I can't say I have a best answer for that. I do think a lot of the stuff you wouldn't need the one-to-one sword controls for. You could literally just swing your Joy-Con left to swipe left. You know, that would work perfectly fine on Joy-Con.
It seems like the Joy-Cons, they received that kind of motion much better than the Wii U, or the Wii.
Yeah,
sorry.
And you know, they could change some of the pointer stuff, like dowsing with the Wii Remote, and even the arrow controls. Bow and arrow use the Wii pointer. You know, they could change that to use the motion controls, the gyro, like in Breath of the Wild. So they could make some tweaks there for that. And, you know, they could even adjust it to buttons somehow. I'm not sure exactly how that would work, because I guess you'd have to,
it would be tricky.
Move the joystick left when you press B to do a left swipe, and right to do a right swipe, but that might get quite awkward, especially in quick combat. So they do have a bit of a task on their hands adjusting that. But if they're able to pull it off in the way that can try and satisfy both audiences to an extent, there's an amazing Zelda game here. I've said the dungeons are by far the best we've seen in the series. It's got a really nice story and the best version of Zelda until Breath of the Wild, which they're both quite close there. And
I would buy it on two conditions though.
Yeah.
First one is playable Groose, and second is crossbow training add-on. Come on, let's do it!
Okay, you have sold me there, because like we said, a lot of games are having their side stories. A Groose side story, bring it on. That would make it game of the year.
Racing mini? I know how you have the Loft Wings in Skyward Sword. Are there any racing mini games with the Loft Wings?
Besides at the very start of the game in the story, you have a race. And I think there might be a checkpoint thing. We have to fly through checkpoints at a later point in the game. Okay. But other than that, there's not much. There's definitely, they could expand that. And I think maybe the best way, one of the big complaints about the game is that the sky's quite empty.
Yeah.
So in the remaster, as well as of course the visual upgrades, which this game looked great on the Wii, cel shaded always looks good. To upgrade that would be phenomenal. But if they added some more islands and side quests throughout the sky, that could be a really good way to solve a lot of people's problems with the game and add new content to it. And with the Switch, they definitely have the ability to do that, and with better processing power and all that jazz. So now's the perfect time. I haven't replayed it since the Wii U days, because I thought it was going to get a port on the Wii U, but it didn't. So I'm still waiting. And every time I think I might just give in and play the Wii version, I hear another rumour that it's coming out soon. Every time. So and it is Zelda's 35th anniversary next year, so that's worth noting.
Yeah, I
can see it.
Alright.
If you can't tell, I love this game. It's tied with Breath of the Wild for me, so
I kind of got the idea over time.
Just a little bit, yeah. Buy it. Give it me, Nintendo. But before I go on for 2 hours, what's your pick, Kai? Your second pick?
Well, are we going to do the one we're both thinking of yet? Or do you want to leave that till last?
I don't think I've picked that one, so you go for it.
Oh, really? Okay, in that case, I'll go straight for it. Well, we can't have a BunchaJokahs podcast without mentioning Xenoblade. Okay, guys. Yeah. I'm back on it.
Xenoblade 2 remastered, right? That's what you want?
Yeah.
I mean, if they added the tracking from...
It's Xenoblade X.
There we go.
So, Xenoblade X is the only game in the trilogy that isn't on the Switch now. It was released in the Wii U, and it's you know, it's something that I feel is inevitable that's going to happen. You know, it's one of the last Wii U games, as we mentioned. Wii U games are all being brought over to the Switch if they were like good and exclusive. You know, we've seen with other games like Pikmin 3, Mario Maker, etc., etc. And
Donkey Kong,
yeah, all of that sort of thing. And this is Xenoblade X is one of the last ones to get that treatment. Like it's one of the very few that hasn't. And I feel like it's just going to happen in time. As well as, you know, being one of the last Wii U games to be brought over, it is also the last Xenoblade to be brought to the Switch, as I said. So it's just one of those things that feels like it's going to happen.
Definitely. I think the funny thing is it's probably one of the Wii U games that could use the most updates as well. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I already liked the graphics of the game, and they might just do a tiny touch up on it. I'm not really sure, but it also would be okay if they didn't change the graphics because I thought they were okay anyway. Same goes for music, I guess. But you know, the game. The music's good. It's like a Xenoblade. For those who don't know, Xenoblade X is like 1 and 2, but it's much more open world, I feel, and it's got a lot of focus on playing online. Now, of course, the Wii U wasn't very popular, so people didn't play the game online. Oh, I think I've cut out for you, Matt. One sec.
Oh, I can just about hear you still.
Yeah, we're all good. We're all good.
Technical difficulties. How's it going, viewers? This is
Can you not hear me?
I've now kicked out Kye from the podcast. It is a solo podcast. I'm going to talk about SpongeBob instead. Oh no, he's back.
I'm back.
Is he?
Okay, I should be.
You missed. I was going to change it into a SpongeBob podcast where you were gone.
Oh man, what was I saying? I don't even remember.
Xenoblade X.
Online. That's it. Okay, so
online.
Xenoblade X has a lot of focus on being online, and being on the Wii U. Of course, not a lot of people played it online. You couldn't get a lot of friends together to play it online either.
I didn't know it had online, to be honest.
I was kind of the opposite. I stopped playing it. Like one of the main reasons I stopped playing it is because the online annoyed me so much because I couldn't get online features off of the screen. And it just annoyed the hell out of me, so I just stopped playing it. But, you know, on the Switch, I feel like there's a lot more opportunity to play it with people, you know, online multiplayer, particularly with it being portable. And there's just, I feel like there's a lot of potential for, you know, this game to be appreciated how it should have been. So that's kind of my main take on it, you know, with the online and other parts of the game being more functional and popular now. I feel like it will really, you know, do what it should have done in the first place.
Can I add something special?
Go for it.
Fix the text size. Make it readable. It's so tiny.
That is, I do remember it being tiny.
Really tiny text.
Also, get rid of Tatsu while you're at it. So yeah, that's basically
just cooking.
I don't know if there's much else to add with Xenoblade X, but just like it's something that's going to happen. I suppose from go on.
I mean, one thing people have is the game ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. And I don't think you finished the story, did you?
Oh, no, I haven't, but I did hear that, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe if they added a future connected style epilogue of some sorts.
Yeah.
You know, they could tie in something there. I mean, sure. I mean, go for it.
I was just gonna say, like, if they don't do that, then it'll be in a like X2, like a sequel of sorts. But I'll get to that in a sec.
Yeah.
But I guess the last thing to add for that is like when it would be released. Now, I do think it's going to happen eventually. Like either way, like they are going to do it because it would make so much sense to. In terms of when though, I would predict sometime around Christmas next year, Christmas 2021. Yeah. Now, my reasoning for that is based off of the schedule of when Monolith has released Xenoblade games and you know, as well as remakes, etc. It wouldn't make sense for them to release it like any time in the next couple months. You know, they've already just released Xenoblade Definitive Edition. It wouldn't make sense for them to immediately be able to release Xenoblade X. So I think that the earliest it will be released, if it were to get a remake, a remaster, would be like late next year, And if they don't do that, then they might just do X2 it, like a sequel as a whole. I think either one of those are equally likely, and I'm cool with either choice happening.
Yeah, to be honest, the main story was never the big sell of it. It's always the side quests and the world that builds. So
yeah.
I think people could miss the first game's story with just a little bit of mild catch up and still have a good time.
Yeah.
But if they did remaster it, I would absolutely buy it. I am a sucker for Xenoblade.
That would be a really good one to do, just hop in a Discord server or whatever, and
yeah.
I'm sure there'll be a lot more people nowadays playing Xenoblade X than there used to be, so that would
I actually have Nintendo friends now, so...
It would be a good one to do. It would be fun.
Definitely. But, I guess this transitions into my pick, because I did think about Xenoblade X, but from a selfish perspective, I've beat this game on the Wii U. I've played it, so I could do without it being ported to the Switch.
Yeah.
But what about the Xeno games I haven't played? So let's go further back.
Okay.
I want to see Xenogears get a remaster on the Nintendo Switch. Because...
Okay, alright.
Now, I went back and forth between Xenogears and Xenosaga, which are, of course, if you don't know, those are the Xeno games that were made way before Xenoblade. Xenosaga is a trilogy, Xenogears is a standalone game way back on the PS1 in the late 90s, I think. Mm-hmm. And they're not easy to get now, they're not accessible, so I really want to go back and explore these other Xeno worlds, but we don't really have the opportunity to. And the reason, whilst I would like both, the reason I picked Gears over Saga is partly because Xenosaga's 3 games, it's less likely we get them all remastered, because that would take a lot more effort. Partly,
I mean, if you want Xenosaga remastered, that's essentially Xenoblade 1.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
There's all sorts of similarities there, aren't there?
Yeah.
They connect quite a bit. But, also Xenogears being the older game probably needs more work on it. And from a personal perspective, I don't know much about Xenosaga, but I have watched a few hours of Xenogears, and it really interested me. The world and premise. If you've played a Xenoblade game, you know the sort of thing you're into. A sort of a fancy world with a sci-fi mix. These interesting characters and plot threads that get into like, what is the universe? Why is this universe here? All sorts of crazy questions get brought up. And it goes all in, from the little I've seen, this is just a few hours of it, it gives you so many seeds for ideas, and I didn't even get to see how they would turn out. But the opportunity to get that on a modern console with some upgrades, so it's no longer a murky-looking PS1 game, because PS1 games show their age quite a bit. So it just seems like, it'd be the perfect opportunity. I don't know about the rights thing, I think Square Enix might own it, so who knows?
I was gonna say about that, yeah. It was Xenogears was a PlayStation game, actually. It was released on I think it's like the PS3 or PS... no, it was originally on just the original PlayStation, I believe.
It was, yeah.
And as well as that, it's owned by Squaresoft. So...
Yeah, so being on the Switch, would that happen? If Nintendo asked nicely, maybe.
I mean, they got like... what's his name? Banjo-Kazooie and Smash. I don't see why not, I guess. Yep. If you can do that,
deals
then...
can be made.
Yeah.
And the thing is, whilst Xenogears, of course, was a PlayStation game, its audience would be on Nintendo nowadays with Xenoblade. Most of its audience who are interested would be Nintendo fans, probably.
Who knows? Maybe it'll be on both. Maybe it'll be on both the Switch and like the PS5 or something.
I would never complain about more people getting into Xeno stuff. Never.
Yeah.
But there's... just the port of it, being able to play it would be great, but being in a PS1 game, there's definitely upgrades that could be made. Visually, of course, you could redo the style. The original game didn't really have that many cutscenes, and they had god-awful voice acting in them. 90s voice acting, it's always awful, so if they completely redid the cutscenes, added more cutscenes, and gave more voice acting to it with new, good voice actors... maybe throw Sky Bennett in there, do it. Throw Sam Brett in there. But yeah, they could really do wonders with this game. And the combat, I didn't fully understand it watching it, not playing it myself. But it seemed really interesting. There's a heavy use of mechs called gears. And, with a upgraded UI to make it all understandable. And, some gameplay tweaks. Personally, I'd like them to get rid of random encounters. I hate them. But even if they're there, just tweak them a little bit, tweak some of the platforming which looked a bit dodgy, and you've got a great core experience there. You've got a really interesting world that I want to explore for myself. I started watching it on YouTube, as I said, but the more I watched, the more I thought it's not as interesting just watching someone else play it. You want to get the full experience yourself, be able to explore the world on your own terms.
It is one of those things where I'd really want to see how it fares in like a modern setting where it has had those improvements made for people to be put on something like the Switch or PlayStation. I would be really interested to see how it does and what changes would be made in that situation. So I'm more just curious than anything.
Definitely. I think if it was just a straight port, I would play it, but I would struggle a bit with some of its archaic features of being a PS1 game. But with a remaster, if they can update it even slightly to give it some more quality of life features, I think this is a game that, from the little I've seen, could really resonate with people in the same way that Xenoblade story has done for 1 and 2. And unlike you said, there are definitely heavy similarities between Xenogears and Xenoblade 1. Even from the opening chapter, I'm like, is this... I get deja vu here a little bit, so it would be interesting. I want to see it. But Kai, have you got your final pick ready for us then?
I have. So, when I talk about games and I talk about style, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Donkey Kong?
No.
Oh, he has no style, he has no grace. Sorry, that's the wrong way.
This Kong, he does have a funny face. So, of course, I am talking about Persona. No, I'm not talking about Persona. We don't talk about that here. Mario Strikers, of course.
I should have seen that one coming.
I don't even know if I've talked about Mario Strikers on the podcast before, but I am a... Oh no, I have. I've played it before. I've talked about that on stream, playing it.
Oh, you have, yes.
I am a huge fan of this game. It's by Next Level Games, released in 2007, and
right.
Why isn't this on the Switch, man? It's extremely... Mario Strikers charged on the Wii and game. I think it was on the GameCube. No, it wasn't. No,
yes.
It wasn't. The original Mario Strikers.
Yeah.
But why don't we have a Mario Strikers game on the Switch? Now, I think they could just take charged. They could, increase the amount of characters, because in the game I believe there's 12 playable characters for your captains. Bring in some more, bring in some new characters, as much as I hate to say it. Rosalina's there.
Palutena? No, why did I say Palutena? Pauline! Why did I say Palutena?
Yes, Palutena, my favourite
Kid Icarus, get it in there.
But I mean... Mario Strikers...
That's the dumbest thing I've said on podcast so far.
It's Laura Fear all over again.
It strikes back.
But, it's an extremely stylish game. It's really fun. It's just one of those really good, casual games to just, play with people. And I don't know why it's not on the Switch. It's hella fun. It's really good for on the go as well. It's one of those games where you could easily play it with a Joy-Con each and have a good time doing it. You could probably play it on a small screen too, because it's one of the games that would suit. And if they added in just these new characters, like I mentioned, you add in new sidekicks, like new Mario Bros enemies and allies, they have. All of those would be really interesting to introduce. I can particularly see characters like Boom Boom maybe being a good character to have as a playable teammate and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe getting some Odyssey, enemies like the rabbit things. I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah, but, all of that sort of thing. It all fits.
Yeah,
and they mix that in, and they can include a couple more maps, a couple new pitches. They could even introduce a more interesting story than the ones they've currently put out, because the current stories are near non-existent. But I feel like they could really put up a really interesting story that isn't necessarily really, really deep or anything, but just something there to look forward to, where you're thinking I'm really curious as to where this will go, because it's one of those games that doesn't shy away from sort of being really extra with how emotive their characters are. I mean, we've seen with Waluigi and some of his goal celebrations.
Yep. I've heard also Daisy's voice lines are something special.
They really are. But I feel like, with that kind of style, you add in just more of that, and maybe even an extra plot line that spices things up a bit. Make the online functionality work, unlike it did in the Wii.
They even tried on the Wii. That's
it tried on the Wii and it didn't really work. But bring that over to this, and I feel like this is one of those party games that would just work really, really well. And the last time Next Level Games released a game was Luigi's Mansion 3 last year.
Yeah.
And it's been a year since then, and I don't feel like it's one of those games. Mario Strikers Charged wouldn't be one of those games where it takes loads and loads of time and effort to make, especially
if it's a remaster.
Yeah, exactly. Compared to other games, it would be a breeze to do. So I feel like it's something that definitely deserves to exist.
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. We haven't really seen that many Mario sports games on the Switch, which is kind of surprising. We got tennis, but we haven't seen golf or baseball or any of the other spin-offs like Strikers. So maybe it's time.
Happen, Nintendo.
I mean, we're still technically in the proximity of Mario's 35th, the year of Mario's 35th. So
true.
It could happen. Maybe for next March, to sort of cap off the year of Mario or whatever. Could be
Next
a good
Level Games, do me a favour. Come on.
Maybe one day, Kai. Maybe one day. Or just a new Strikers game, just a completely new one,
I'd be cool with that too, yeah.
That'll work. But I guess I should probably bring on my final pick. And I've tried to be a little bit diverse in my approaches to my picks. So I had one game that I've played a lot and really loved. I've had one game that I've never played. And for this one, I wanted to go a bit nostalgic and go from a game from my childhood that could use an update. And I considered a few things. One game I thought of was the SpongeBob movie game for the PS2, which was made by the same creators of Battle for Bikini Bottom, so it could do the rehydrated treatment exactly the same. I also thought of Simpsons Hit and Run. That's a game people love, and upgrading that would be awesome.
Yeah, I love that game.
And I nearly picked that. If I had to pick a fourth pick, that would probably be it. But I settled on something different in the end. I decided that what goes up must come down, and yet my feet don't touch the ground. Give me Sonic Heroes on the Switch. I need it. It's such a good game.
Oh god. Okay.
Because some of you might actually know this if you're from our Discord community. I started reusing this channel to do a Sonic Heroes Let's Play, and I gave up on it, and in the end decided, screw it, let's do a podcast. But I went back to play it because I was nostalgic for a game of my childhood. And whilst it has its, problems being a, 15-year-old game or something like that, it was really, really fun. Only mildly broken. There's some loose hinges in there. But there's a really fun foundation there. I'm not a huge Sonic fan. I've not played a lot of Sonic games, but Heroes just has such a really interesting dynamic of switching between these three players. And like you said, it is jank. There is definitely a lack of polish there, but if they were to remaster it and give it that polish, you've got some really great platforming levels. You've got a perfect balance of fast sections and stopping to combat enemies. You've got all sorts of Sonic characters, the ones people actually like to play as. And Big the Cat, who's Big the Cat, but let's be real, we all like hearing Froggy over and over again. But it is genuinely, it is actually, some jank aside, it is a really fun game. And there are some really interesting worlds in here. You've got the sprawling city of, I can't remember what it's called, Metro City, with its these blue neon platforms going. You've got the casino park, which has this giant pinball table. And it's really, even back on the PS2, these environments are really great to look at. And if you were to upgrade these and remaster these in HD, add some more background components, remaster the soundtrack, which is already phenomenal. I mean, this could be just by far the best Sonic game that's ever released. I genuinely think so. It is
straight up.
They were onto something. they were really onto something. And if you can just buff out those scratches, there's something special here.
Okay. I can see the potential. I can.
Yeah. I think there's some other changes they could make as well. Of course, there's the 4 different routes you can take, which is quite interesting. You've got 3 of them are basically easy, normal, and hard mode. But then you've also got Team Chaotix, which all of their levels revolve around a special objective, like defeat this enemy or break all these boxes. So there's quite an interesting variety there. But for the main game, to get the final boss, the true ending, you have to beat all of those stories, and you have to get, as far as I'm aware, all of the Chaos Emeralds in all of those stories, which involve these awful bonus levels. You might have remembered watching me play them, Kai.
Yeah.
If you watched me. They're so awful. Yeah. If they... you get stuck on the ceiling, it hurts me. It breaks my soul. But if they can like adjust that so that the true ending is actually accessible to a normal person who doesn't want to destroy their brain, then you know, I would happily replay this game several times, and I would finally get to do that true ending because I've never done it. So I think Sonic's having a rough time of it, a very rough time of it. Forces was not well received, so maybe if they dial it back a little bit and bring a bit of a classic back, I think it could be a bit of a strong start Sonic needs to these next few years.
Fair enough.
Or it could die.
It could easily just die, but I mean, with that idea,
it might happen.
Just to check, there are like 4 teams in Sonic Heroes?
4 teams. Right? Yeah.
You know, who's saying they can't add...
team?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, why don't they add in like a 5th team, and maybe if they do have new additions that they add to the game, new improvements, you can have this 5th team show off those improvements potentially. Like, you know, there's always potential there for that sort of thing to happen. I don't really know enough about the game to go into detail, but yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know enough about, you know, other Sonic characters to say who this team could be. I'm not sure how fond people are of some of the newer characters that they would want them to be their own team. But there's definitely potential there, or even maybe somehow an option to mix and match teams. That could be interesting.
That would be hype. I can see that being the case,
Sonic
actually.
Yeah, something like Sonic and Rouge the Bat and, I don't know, Big the Cat in one team. Go for it.
That'd be crazy.
Someone's already got that in their fan fiction. Probably a good time to leave the topic of Sonic.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are our 3 picks for remasters. But of course, there's plenty more. There's always plenty of games that could come to the Switch. So if you've got any other options, leave your thoughts below in the comments. Because there's so many games out there, and the Switch is seeming to be grabbing them up, all of the old ones. So nothing's impossible at this point.
Yeah, there's potential for anything, you know. Yeah,
except I'm afraid Pikmin 4, that's never happening. But there's potential for everything else. I'm sorry. But yeah, that brings us to the end of the video, I think. So thank you all so much for watching this. Please stay tuned to our channel. We release plenty of other videos, including a monthly podcast. We'll have one out the first Sunday of December, talking about lots of Hyrule Warriors stuff. So that's going to be really exciting. And you can check that out here, as well as on Spotify and Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts under the name BunchaJokahs. So, you know, go give us a little check out there if you fancy. And until then, I just want to give some big thanks to our friend Samm, who does all of the channel work, the artwork and the logo and the thumbnails.
Of course. He's going to have a lot of fun with Mario Strikers this time. He's already told me that.
Oh, that should be interesting.
Yeah.
And I hopefully he doesn't go too much into the Sonic stuff, but you go into some dangerous territory digging for Sonic artwork. But of course, it's one of those days. Of course, a huge thanks to you, Kai, for talking with me about our remastered picks. Thank you for talking with me.
Yeah, it's all good, man. It's been good.
And where can people find you at?
Well, people can't find me anywhere particularly right now, so instead I'm just going to hand this over and say, go follow BMoreDuck on Twitch, B_more_duck, because I'm not streaming at the moment, but he is. He's doing some good gameplay of a bunch of different things, so go check him out instead this time round.
Absolutely, go see him. I'll put a link to that channel in the description below. We've recently he finished Untitled Goose Game on there, which was a lot of fun. So
yeah, get him to affiliate. Let's go.
Do it. Let's make it happen. But until then, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.
Bye.